You're joining us for a quick update episode of the DW's business podcast. Volkswagen is preparing a radical shakeup that could reshape Germany's biggest car maker. That's according to Manager magazine. CEO Oliver Blume wants to cut up to 100,000 jobs, close plants, and spin out the core VW brand. My colleague Steven Beardsley follows the German car industry for DW. So, Steve, what exactly is Oliver Blume proposing, and how radical is it compared to the previous plan?
Yeah, Daniel, this would be quite radical, actually. And we know all of this from this report. This is citing insiders within the company itself. So we're going to have to wait and see actually how much of this pans out to be true. But Manager Magazine has done well in the past, getting a lot of these scoops before. What it's saying is that on July 9th, there's going to be a meeting of the supervisory board of Volkswagen, the Volkswagen Group. Remember, this is a company that comprises 10 different brands, including Volkswagen, the brand, Porsche, Audi, for example. And that supposedly this is what the CEO, Oliver Blume, is going to propose, these radical steps. As you mentioned, up to 100,000 positions being cut. That's on top of, I should say, we already know that there are 50,000 positions that are being cut right now. This would be another 50,000, meaning that would be 100,000 in total by 2030, according to this report. And that would come largely, apparently, from the closures of 4 different production facilities, and all of them being in Germany. And then another big thing that we're seeing as part of this potential plan is this idea of spinning out Volkswagen, the brand, as you mentioned, which is interesting because Volkswagen has really talked about the kind of synergies that are supposed to be created through having all of these brands together. And now it's talking about really hiving one off, saying that, look, by doing this, it can, of course, be more agile, and that it might, according to this report, that it should make it easier for Volkswagen to then make further cuts in the future because of changes with the voting structures that would then make it much simpler to get around basically the disagreement of certain parts of the company, mostly labor, that does not want to see these additional positions being lost.
Okay, so which parts of the company are going to be hit hardest by this?
Yeah, there would be some management positions under the report, according to this plan, that would be part of this, but ultimately it's really going to be production. And that's not so much of a surprise, because when you talk to Volkswagen, when you listen to Volkswagen and how they talk about the issues, when you listen to their investors and what their issues are with Volkswagen, it's really about production and the fact that it has too much capacity these days. Oliver Blume says 12 million vehicles. That's what they can make right now. That's the production capacity. They're making on average much less than that, closer to 9 million. And that's not going to change in the future, he says. So that means, how do you get rid of that production capacity? And it's hard to imagine doing that without getting rid of a lot of these facilities. They've been looking at leasing out facilities that aren't being used up to their production capacity, their potential. We've reported, of course, in the past on defense companies potentially coming in, using some of this capacity, but that's been a big deal for the company, trying to lower its costs as it really focuses on cutting costs. This is a real focus for the company. Then coming down from that production capacity is a massive part of it. And so this is in some ways not so surprising. I've asked in the past, what does this mean for German jobs in particular, especially as you see more and more of the group's capacity going to countries around Germany. And that's been a question that they've danced around for a long time, saying, look, we have the cuts in place. We came up with this agreement with labor in 2024, 50,000 cuts by 2030. We're doing it responsibly, of course. But then you realize that these things don't really match together, the kind of cuts that they aspire to make versus the kind of cuts that are in place. And they've said as much, too. During the last quarterly results release for the first quarter, this is back a couple of weeks ago, the CFO, the chief financial officer, interestingly said the planned cuts don't go far enough. And it was a very direct statement that then wasn't really followed up on. What does that mean exactly? And again, when you talk to the company itself, says, well, we have lots of little areas that we're looking in, but it wouldn't be such a massive surprise if this is put on the table, and then ultimately that's what it comes down to.
Right, because so far this is just according to the media reports that we're seeing here in Germany. But if we zoom out a little bit beyond the job losses specifically in these specific factory closures, what does the plan? How does it matter for Germany, for German industry, for the car industry more broadly?
Yeah, this is an industry that really is under fire right now. In Germany, Germany is a car country. It makes up a lot of jobs here through direct and indirect employment. And it is struggling right now. We've seen that car manufacturers like Volkswagen, but also car suppliers have been cutting back. They've been outsourcing jobs elsewhere. They've been going to places like Spain for more production because the conditions are better there in terms of labor costs and other regulations. And so there's been this fear that's been spreading that it's only going to get worse, and this seems to confirm that in many ways. So it's definitely a blow to a sense of what Germany is as a car country and a major employer, of course, and a major industrial employer. On top of that, you have to think about the regions and the municipalities across Germany that are really going to continue to struggle because of what's going on with industry and especially with the car industry. I wrote about last year about the deficits that car cities in particular are seeing in their budgets. And we're seeing budget deficits across all of Germany, but in particular, it's the car cities such as Stuttgart, such as Wolfsburg, home to Volkswagen, such as Ingolstadt, home to Audi, that are showing really some of the largest deficits. And that's because they take so much of their money from business taxes. And of course, the biggest businesses are the car industry itself. So they're making major cutbacks, and that's remarkable because they're making cutbacks to very visible things that citizens are going to feel every day. And these are some of the wealthiest, most prosperous regions in all of Europe, actually. And now they're really on their back foot because of what's happening. So you are going to see this across Germany. Yeah, it's just another blow, one that many knew was potentially coming. But now if this pans out, then it could be even worse.
Yeah, so it is a shock, but perhaps not a surprise. Steven Beardsley, thank you very much for updating us on this. And remember, if you want more on money, power, and consequences, you can find full episodes of The Dip here on the DW News YouTube channel.